Gallifrey Public Radio is a fandom podcast dedicated to the Doctor Who television programme. It relies on the illogical human concept of positivity, a weakness that should be deleted.
This is Gallifrey Public Radio, dedicated to positive enjoyment of Doctor Who. We travel through classic and new episodes, explore the extended universe, and play a few games from time to time. We do discuss news, content that has been officially released, and the occasional interesting rumor, but we'll warn you before anything considered spoilers comes up. Welcome to episode 515 of Gallifrey Public Radio. I'm Kier.
I'm Haley.
I'm Jay.
And I'm Julie. This week, we're back to our Sarah Jane adventures with the final story of the third season, The Gift.
Small as Earth is, it's still a useful plot of land.
Millions of people killed, and all you see is a plot of land?
We're simple farming folk, Miss Smith. But one day, our farm will span the entire galaxy!
We thought the Slitheen are back, but they're not the Slitheen. They're sunburned Slitheen, but they kind of are Slitheen? By marriage? I don't follow it.
You don't read enough about, like, royal families and stuff, about, like, junior branches.
I don't. Unscripted television is just not my jam. It never has been. Sorry, Will.
I feel like there was just a want to say Raxapella Calvatorius as many times as they could.
Well, they got their money's worth in the first 5 minutes. For sure.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it was Jim over in receiving. He completely bleached out the costumes, and they didn't.
Yeah, you can't leave those things. You have to keep them under a UV glass. If you don't, keep them in that wardrobe room. Oh, they're gonna get funky. And then you end up with this.
They shot the tomato soup scene first, is what happened, and just really made a mess of everything.
I want to come back to that because I got questions about that substance and the way they all reacted to that substance. But in general, just the whole idea of using the Slitheen, I think that whole concept getting far more screen time with SJA than it ever did or should with Doctor Who proper. Is this angle, is this shtick still working? Or is it starting to feel a little tired? Or is it just because we're not the 12 to 16 demo?
We're in season 3 now, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Finishing season 3, yes.
Okay, so, like, fart jokes, poop jokes, burp jokes, great with your young audience, but the audience is growing up a little bit at this point. I don't know if they've grown out of the age of poop jokes, but as an adult watching it, I'm like, I appreciate a good fart joke as much as anybody, but that's a lot.
The amount of sound effects in this one was... It felt like every sentence was punctuated with a sound effect, and it was...
It really was. Yeah, unwarranted. Like, not even, like, part of the, you be careful while you're in disguise or anything like that. It was just they're middle of speaking and whoop, behind them.
And the villain was defeated with a brown note? Like, really? That's our resolution?
Yep. Science.
Yeah, I think that I hope this is the last time we see them, because really it's... Like you said, we got more than we needed to in Doctor Who proper. It made sense for them to show up the first time. Seeing them come back with an actually, like, somewhat compelling story was interesting, but clearly they've run dry on this one.
Yeah.
It looked pretty wet to me.
I did appreciate the fact that they tried to work the idea of, we're business people, we're farmers, whatever angle they want to take. At least that they did carry it out. They ran with that ball for as long as the script called for it, and didn't feel like it was shoehorned in as a way to explain the fact that they wanted to use spore effects. or such. It was an integral part of the story. I will definitely give them credit for that.
Yeah, and I also thought that while you still had some of the characters who had their "oh, I knew it, called it" moment, it was believable in the way the Blatherine presented everything, and even their gift. Like, it's a nice gesture. It was something that the team hoped for and really wanted to believe in. So I think having that play out, I did like that. But yeah, I think now that trick has been pulled on the viewers and the explosion there at the end, I also hope that's the end of this villain.
The thing that I was hoping for with this was we had the moment where you had the Slitheen, then the Blatherine showed up to try and, to save the day and be like, hey, we're different. And everyone, with the exception of Ronnie, was instantly cynical. They're like, oh no, this is crap. And they are treating these new ones just the same as they did the Slitheen. And it went on for long enough that I thought they were going to start to deal with prejudice and things like that. And I really wanted to see them play that out, where they're fighting against these people the whole time, and it turns out that they're actually decent people, proving that they can have, a person can be good or bad. A people can have good or bad people in them, and you can't base a judgment off of what they look like. And it would have been a very easy thing to go with, but instead they went the easy route of, oh no, they're actually evil too. They're just a different flavor.
Yeah,
Right.
I thought that was a problematic moral lesson to put into a children's show of like, yes, we're suspicious of these people because they're of the same race of somebody else that did this. And then, yes, that suspicion was warranted. Like we could, you can't have an unlimited food supply actually be given to Sarah Jane to give to the people of Earth. We know that can't work out. But I think a better resolution would have been like, oh, we didn't know how it was going to interact with something in Earth's environment. So that's why there's all these negative effects. And it wasn't ill will. Like, we were well-intentioned and benevolent.
Circumstances.
Yeah, this really was a gift, and it really was meant to help. It's not going to work out that way because it can't, because of whatever pseudoscience, because story demands that it not work out. But we do give you an example of people of this race that are not the same as the ones you've already met. And these ones are good if we're looking at the binary of good and evil.
Right, we've had a number of instances within the primary Doctor Who universe, like within the show, the title show proper, where you've had beings who were immediately assumed to be the adversarial because they look evil by some standards, or they had a reputation, a supposed reputation or a rumor of what they were, and it proved that they had no ill will intent towards anyone, and it was a matter of either misinterpretation or misunderstanding or miscommunication. And we've also had instances where they've played the Trojan horse angle, which is being done here, but that aspect is always going to be a literary technique that's going to land real well with younger viewers because they're not as familiar with it. They have a degree of trust that just kind of falls within the safer margins, and then the whole idea of the ha-ha thing is a great mechanism to use on an uninitiated viewer or an unjaded viewer.
None taken.
Right? But I think about things like the Ood, and the whole idea of, well, they've got red eyes, they must be evil, they're out to get you, and they're doing things that are slightly suspect. But that's, again, I don't know why that wasn't something that I think would have a really, really strong impact on a property like this for an audience like this. Your point is spot on, Jay.
I think that you could also allow for the Blatherine to help because they've got a different amount of technology where they could track the racweed as it's growing and provide some assistance for that instead of their map still being used for the negative and the bad. And the resolution of the bell or the chimes could still come from the kids, but then how do we maybe disseminate that across the globe or, however far it's spread? They can still be involved in that and not be like overtaking the whole point of the story, which was the two that are at school can solve things without Luke having to be there to be the savior of all every single time.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to ask about that. So Luke was running at 15% at most through the entire episode?
Well, I think he got all the way down to 12 or 11 based on the body chart that was going up on the computer on Mr. Smith. It was
the green forehead chart, that says everything below this is red. Oh, yeah, I've seen those medicine ads where the red area is the glowy part that hurts, and he was hurting in very much of his body, according to that.
I think he got to 87 or 90% red.
Yeah, Zarbies isn't going to fix that. But my question was, did you miss him?
Nope, not this time. I feel like there have been episodes where he was needed, but I was really glad to see Clyde and Ronnie and K9 get to have their moment.
But we don't get to see just Clyde and Ronnie together a lot, so that was nice.
Also, I don't know if I got the chance to miss Luke because it seemed like every third line from Sarah Jane was about how he was in danger and how she was doing this for him, and it was a little heavy-handed.
Plus, we saw him groaning on the couch a lot.
Right. In full watermelon mode.
Yes.
His watermelon dots were very different from the teacher's watermelon dots.
Well, he ingested a little bit.
Also, the Bane created his physiology, so it's different.
Right.
Duh.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you know anything about science?
He should have been able to fight it off because he's never been sick.
Right. Yeah.
How many times did he drop the phone, too?
It's okay. It's one of those Nokia brick phones, so it's fine from the fall.
I think they bounce.
It literally bounces back into his hand so that he could just pick it up again when the next person calls. Okay, got it. I missed that, but yeah, that makes sense.
All right. Y'all had some comments about a certain bit of technology in use, so let's discuss the little tin dog.
All right. Could Clyde think of a less subtle way to cheat on a test than a yelling robot dog? Is it possible to come up with anything worse than that?
He did have an earpiece. There was hope.
As an owner of AirPods, let me tell you, once you take it out of your ear, your phone is just playing music or whatever. That's exactly what happens with the robot dog.
I was entertained by the fact that K9 lacks any sense of ethics, really. It's like he has no idea what cheating is. There's no he totally buys into Clyde's complete bull of it's like, oh, I'm proving how smart I am by cheating, and it
by cheating and not getting caught.
Struck me as odd. It struck me as odd, and then I remembered where K9 came from, and I'm like, this makes total sense. He is a scientific assistant. Ethics are just going to get in the way of that.
Also, because between his true creator and then the Fourth Doctor doing the tinkering to the Mark model that K9 is, any ethics chips that might have been in there were moved out of the way to make room for smell-o-vision enhancements and who knows what. So yeah, that stuff just gets in the way for sure. But would the teacher, who, by the way, boy, she had it coming to her. If anybody needs a face full of icky, what looked like sherbet sandwich spores coming at your face there, she was it, because she hated every child in that room from the jump.
It reminded me of my 6th grade science teacher, honestly.
Yeah, it's true. They 6th graders are some of the worst creatures on the planet.
And anyone that has spent time teaching children knows that the quickest way to get random noises to start is telling everyone to be absolutely silent. The moment that you tell someone that they cannot make a sound is the exact moment that they need to cough. It's a trigger.
Yeah. But the thing about using the K9 as the cheating tool is Clyde had to put the entire test on the floor.
Right.
So the kid's sitting there with nothing in front of him.
Well, no, she said don't mark on the question sheet, mark on the answer sheet provided. So that's why he could, because he had something in front of him that he was marking on, and she just would not notice that he didn't have a question sheet in front of him. Because teachers are dumb.
I will not mark it so much, I will move it 4 feet away from my writing utensils on the floor.
But, it exactly follows the kid logic that I would expect, because every generation of kids thinks that they are the first to ever text in class, and the teacher's not going to notice because they're so smart and sneaky.
Yep.
So, of course, the teacher's not going to notice your giant robot dog that has to weigh 1,000 pounds. How did Clyde carry that thing down the stairs?
Oh, no, he's super light. Because he also has hover mode, which you don't actually see in use. He just sits in the back of Sarah Jane's car and says, activate hover mode, quick cut camera away, cut back to K9 trundling in. Man, if you got hover mode, you can get through those hallways a hell of a lot faster. I'm sorry.
Takes a lot of power, though.
You have defeated Mavity at that point, and you can haul.
Yeah, but he also needed to reserve because he had to spin up his little wind motion activated, I don't know what that was, to blow away one time.
Fan.
Yeah. But out of his ears, I think it was. So I don't know.
Cooling fans.
Oh, also, did you see
Yeah.
that
They
Ronnie
spin fast
covered
enough.
his little ears when the bell sound was about to start? She wrapped her arm around his head to cover his
She
ears.
was worried about him, his little radars.
That was adorable.
She is
But
precious.
also, one other thing with, since we're on the K9 topic, is K9 and Mr. Smith having a little lover spat because they have to be roommates. What is going on? Why are they unable to live next
It is the
to
odd
each
couple.
other?
They're the co-workers that have to interact but can't stand each other.
How
Because
weird
they're
that
too similar.
how weird that somebody would
that's
be
what I was
annoyed by
gonna
a
say.
dog that makes too much noise.
Oh.
I understand Mr. Smith completely. He just
You
wants to
are
hang
Mr.
out in his
Smith
attic.
in this. Yeah.
He's got a workbench. That's all he wants to do. Just leave me alone. Let me crunch numbers. I'm going to impress you later. You're gonna like the results. Somebody get this freaking dog away from me. And for the love of God, please clean the gloop out of my keyboard now. What the hell was that? How did Clyde clean that mess with a half a mop on a stick?
Because it took him like 3 weeks. You realize like everybody else has showered, changed, they've made a picnic. Like it is days
Grown
later.
beard.
They all had to throw away their clean, crisp white shirts, though.
No, Clyde was still wearing his. He keeps it for a keepsake.
Yeah, or he left it on for so long he can't remove it now.
Right. It's adhered to his skin.
This is my skin.
But I mean, all right. So as a season finale, like a big goo explosion covering your cast and the entire set, like that is a great way to end a season for a kids show. Like that had to have been a lot of fun for somebody had fun with that. I'm not sure who it was.
You know what? I think the cast genuinely enjoyed it because I wonder whether or not after you have all that stuff thrown on you, and I don't care how they maintain the set, after a while having that stuff on your outfit, it's going to get cold. So you're standing there after a couple of takes with this stuff cooling on your clothing and face and hair and shoes. And so they do however many takes and then they hug. And I don't know if that hug was necessarily in the script, but even if it was, that takes commitment because that is going to be the most uncomfortable, squelchy, nasty embrace.
Maybe they threw fresh, warm goop on them between takes.
I remember actually sitting in a panel with the actor who plays Clyde, and he talked about this particular scene. And he was like, there was a lot of pressure because like you get one shot, they're going to throw goop. And if you mess it up, it's going to take so long to reset. So they basically said, you get one shot with this. And they did it great. And as soon as the director yelled cut, they all like lost it. They started laughing. It was a tremendous amount of fun from what he was saying. So I would love to have seen the behind the scenes stuff for that.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
I do
for
remember him talking about it, and I couldn't remember what this was from at the time, but I remember thinking like, oh, when we get there, it'll be fun to know this story from him because of that moment that he shared from that panel. I was at a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I'm glad Jay remembered it because I forgot about it until he mentioned it. So thank you for sharing my memories with me, Jay.
You're welcome. The thing that I wanted to touch on, though, is like I kind of made reference to it earlier, where you have that theme of cynicism kind of permeating at least the first half of the first episode. And it's Sarah Jane trying to do her due diligence and like, I'm going to scan this thing before I do anything with it. You know that, right? And like that, and that kind of went throughout. And it lessened when the real threat is revealed and they have to deal with things and stuff. But it was kind of a nice bookend to have that, like, so much of that up front. And then the very end of it, as we're doing the outro, and Sarah Jane is just still hopeful, saying like, I wanted to believe them. I wanted this to be a good thing because I have to believe somebody out there is good. And it really was a nice way to kind of acknowledge what had happened and still ended up on an up note.
It also marks a point of change for Sarah Jane from where she was at the start of the first season of this spin-off series. She was the mad woman in the attic. She was the one who didn't trust anyone. She was out there to continue to do her research, to unearth the hard truths and those things, and didn't want to have anything to do with a bunch of kids who were going to get in the way of what she considered to be the important, hard decision work. And she had that cynicism within her that had sort of built over time when she had been set in motion by Doctor's example, but didn't have the Doctor there to be the counterpoint. Mm-hmm. So that's where she had wandered into. And this is now that nice turn that says that she has rediscovered that hopefulness, and whether she immediately credits it to these kids and their tenacity and their outlook and their embrace of everything new and unusual within the world, and that fresh eyes sort of perspective, or if it's just something where the maternal thing that has set in so strongly with her that has changed her want to say, things may be messy and broken and problematic, but you have to hope because you want to be able to hand things over in a better condition to the next generation, and they do the same forward and forward and forward. So whatever the case may be, I think it's a nice statement for Sarah Jane's continued evolution as a character. And fart jokes. And burnt weenies at the picnic.
What do we think overall? I mean, we're 3 seasons into this show now. We've been through some ups and downs. What's our takeaway with this one? How do we feel that this ranks up with the rest of the series so far?
I think you've got some humor moments. I think you've got your pseudoscience included, which anytime you've got phones ringing with Mr. Smith calling and 2 robots working together to put some frequency numbers up on there, I feel like you get that. I feel like we've got a lot of the team working together, even if it's in weird ways. And for me, other than, overuse of fart jokes, I think it definitely continues to push the story forward and is a really good example of the show.
Yeah, I really like the way we've seen the characters, especially the kids, grow over the course of the 3 seasons, and the way they've all grown together to work as a team. They've all got relationships with every other character. There's not just one that's required to tie everyone together, which used to kind of be the case with Luke. But we've now reached the point where we can have a story where he's mostly removed and all these characters have enough relation with each other that everything still moves forward. I don't know that this is the best story we've had up to this point, but it does show that the growth that we've had over the 3 seasons to get to where we are now in the overall point of the show.
Yeah. It shines a clear enough light on a lot of the salient points that you would need to see to know that the show is thriving well, and that it can it can find opportunities to be able to place those poignant bits in and those clear indications of character growth and interpersonal dialogue exchanges between the characters that are in a better place than they were even a season ago. And it doesn't get too upstage or tripped up by the fact that you still have at its heart a relatively silly script or premise behind it. It's still watchable. It's still enjoyable.
I think that, I mean, like I mentioned earlier, I think the story could have been a lot better. I don't think that this was the greatest that we've had, but I do thoroughly enjoy the fact that like all of our main cast have really gotten to know their characters and really kind of embraced them and taken them as their own and are really starting to gel as a unit. The fact that you can take Luke completely out of the story and it still functions really well just shows that it's no longer to Haley's point, like you don't have that core character that needs to be there to make it go anymore. Mm-hmm. So I think that the show's really kind of hitting its stride.
I think at this point we've had an example of a light episode for almost all of our primary characters, right? Sarah James has been sidelined at times. Ronnie was out of commission for certain sequences. Luke is up and down like a whack-a-mole. And I think has Clyde really been sort of sidelined much?
I don't think so. I think that Clyde's been kind of there throughout. But
interesting. I'm going to watch for that one.
He went off with his dad the one episode, so he didn't work with the team, but they all came back together.
But it was very much a Clyde episode.
It was focused on him, but not him as the team. But as far as like Clyde Light, no, I wouldn't say so yet.
Nah, because everybody needs Daniel Anthony in their lives, honestly.
I mean,
Hey, fun fact, as we're recording here, he has been recently announced as joining the cast of The Play That Goes Wrong on the West End. Ooh. So if you haven't seen the show, it's funny as hell, number one. And number two, now you can go and see familiar faces falling down as the set collapses around them.
This has been episode 515 of Gallifrey Public Radio. Until next time, this is Jay saying, rackweed, the musical fruit. The more you eat, the more you spread all over London and try and take over the planet with an invasive species of plants.
And this is Keir saying, when in doubt, Nickelodeon slime gags.
This is Julie saying, any teen who has watched this with their parents no longer has to argue too hard against the healthy greens in their dinner. Just point to the episode.
And this is Haley saying, I'm just a simple rackweed farmer, like my father and his father before him.
We'll see you next time.
Allons-y.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Gallifrey Public Radio. As a fan-run podcast, your thoughts and opinions are part of the conversation. Leave us a comment or review on your preferred podcast app, find us on social media to message us, or visit GallifreyPublicRadio.com for email and voicemail contacts. We'll see you out there in time and space.
Hi, this is Jacob. This recording of Gallifrey Public Radio is copyrighted in 2024. GPR is a fan-owned, fan-produced podcast. We'll see you next time!